Everybody, hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. You're ready to get going here. So just as a reminder, those 5-minute money makers, last week's was guys have used this technique, have gone from very low percentage of callbacks to a high percentage of callbacks of voicemail. So we covered this about 2 months ago, about how to leave a voicemail. So and this will show you again how to do that, and also we have that on the website. And then for the last Thursday tape breakdown, said great 30-second example of why we never assume. So please make sure you're paying attention to those on each of those weeks. And then again, when you're doing these tape breakdowns, don't just listen to them, actually practice them and use it as an opportunity to get better at your skills. So this is something I talk about maybe once a year, and that's how to make your own luck. They've done a lot of research on luck, and guess what they found out? There's people that are naturally lucky, people that are naturally unlucky, but really it's not natural. It comes with their characteristics, how they live their life. So people aren't actually lucky or unlucky, except on how they live their lives. In fact, they looked at unlucky people, and they found that within 40 days, they can make them lucky because what they do is they retrain them on how they live life. So this is the kind of stuff you should be thinking about when it comes to your practice and life in general. First thing is only good things happen to me. So do you remember on the Charles Schultz, the Peanuts cartoon? There was a guy that he always, I don't think Pigpen was the guy who always felt bad about himself. But there's a little black cloud that's always above his head, and he's always feeling bad things happen to him. Well, guys, if bad things happen to you, if you think bad things happen to you, guess what magically happens? Think bad things happen to you, guess what magically happens? Let's see some answers to that. Bad things, exactly, Stephen. Jerry, exactly, bad things. So, you always need to have, I know it's hard, but you always need to be shooting for an attitude that only good things happen to me. And even if you can talk to Missy sometime, I've had in my share in the last 20 years, bad things happen to me, but my comment is always, you know what? 3 months down the line, I figure out that things happen for a reason. And when I have that rear view mirror, I can look back and say, you know what? That thing that I thought was horrible was actually a good thing. So yeah, I always look at think only good things happen to you. And when you have a bad day, figure out, was it really a bad day, or was it just a bad 5 minutes that you milked all day as a bad day? And we see this all the time when we talk to advisors. They'll talk about how bad their day is, and guess what it ends up being? Was their whole day bad, or was it just one thing that was bad, and then they milked it for the whole day? Or even if one day is bad, guess what? We've had guys milk a bad day for months. We laugh because, here's the funny thing. We've had guys bow out of the system for, because they've had knee surgery. We've had guys bow out of the system for 3-4 months because they're getting a divorce. We've had guys bow out of the system for 2 months because they're buying a house. We've guys bow out of the system for it's incredible how people will bow out of the system. When somebody says, I'm getting a divorce, I'm going to be bowing out of the system for the next 3 months. Dudes, what happens when a fireman gets a divorce? Does he bow out of his job for 3 months? How about a doctor? How about a teacher? How about an engineer? How about the maintenance worker? How about a steel worker? Does anybody else bow out of their job for 3 months because they're getting a divorce? Who's the only people that bow out? I'm sorry that we're laughing at your misfortune. We're laughing at the fact that you think this misfortune causes your whole life to stop, and you're the only person in the whole world that happens to. Every other entity, guess what? The people working at the convenience store, the people working at the grocery store, the people working at your hospital, they all go to work. Dudes, you can either wallow in it or you can get on with your life. And guess what you find out? The best thing for depression, what do you think the best thing for depression is? What is the best thing for depression? Not necessarily work, but it's activity. It could be work. It could be it's activity. Stay busy, Arthur. Right. Activity, Andre Kyle. Yes. Just keep doing things. If you sit there and think about it, guess what? Yeah, you're going to immobilize yourself. So don't milk, you know what, if you've had a bad 5 minutes, guess what you need to do? Leave the office, take a walk, look at the sunshine, count your blessings. Dudes, get on with life. Pay attention to the things that happen around. It's amazing. I'll give you an example of this. I was talking to Mark here, it was last week or the previous week, and he and I talk weekly, and he says, and he's had these huge improvements in his skill level. He's finally really zeroed in on the scripts. He's zeroed in on the 15-minute drills. He's taking everything seriously, and his whole attitude has changed. He's like a night and day difference. And he was saying, yeah, I just got back from lunch, and he says I heard some people talking, a couple talking next to me, and it ends up that he was going to be moving his 401k, and she had something else going on. So he just started a conversation with him, and he made an appointment with him just by going to lunch. He was paying attention to what was going on around him, and he says, you know what, I would have never done that before, but I just my confidence has gone way up because my skills are razor sharp now, so I'm confident in what I'm doing. And he just had a conversation with him, boom, 2 appointments, boom, boom, with good money, and cost him nothing. He paid attention to what was going on around him. He said, I wonder how I can leverage this. I could just pay attention to my phone, blah, 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 look, fiddle around with my phone at lunch and pay attention to my sandwich, or he was paying attention to what was going on around him. He was looking for opportunities. There's opportunities that surround us all day long. Pay attention to those opportunities. Look for opportunities. Think, how can this make my life better? Maybe it's helping somebody across the street. Maybe it's bending, maybe somebody drops a piece of paper and you bend down and help them out with it. There's all sorts of things that you can do that if you pay attention to what's going on around you, that you can capitalize on to make your life and everybody else's life a little bit better. And when you do that, luck happens. I like this. Pi 3.14, Pi 0.3. Is it coincidence? I think not. Guys, I was just talking about this earlier. I never look at when bad things happen to me, I always think they happen for a reason. And I might not be able to figure it now, but 3 months down the line, I always figure out, look back and say, yeah, that actually ended up being a good thing happened to me. So when coincidence happens, don't just step over and say, that's interesting. Look for opportunities everywhere. Get out of your comfort zone. So if you keep doing the same thing the same way every day, you're going to get the same thing. If you're looking for opportunities, you want to get lucky, guess what? Drive a different way home. Go to a different restaurant for lunch. Join a group that you hadn't thought about joining. Go to church at the 11 o'clock instead of at the 9 o'clock. Do things different. Get out of your comfort zone. When you do things different, that's when the magic happens. Because if you keep doing the things you're doing, you're going to keep running into the same people, doing the same things, and have the same kind of life. If you have a great life, then keep doing the same things. But you'll be amazed when you get out of your comfort zone and do different things, the kind of positive things, lucky things that can happen in your life. You can ask the universe for all the signs you want, but ultimately we see what we want to see when we're ready to see it. And that's all that we've been talking about right now. But when they've looked at luck, guess what they found? The number one characteristic of lucky people, were how many people they knew. The more people they knew, the luckier they had. The more organizations they belonged to, the luckier they were. Connections is what makes you lucky. So if you want to get lucky, guess what? Get involved with the community. Get involved with groups. Get involved with people. The more people you know, the luckier you get. And there's all sorts of ways. And am I talking about LinkedIn people? Am I talking about Facebook people? What am I talking about, guys? That's right, Wade. No. What am I talking about? Real life people, right, Mark? Real life people. Getting to, participate. I don't care. Play softball. Join a darts league. Do a charity. Join the Habitat for Humanity. Go to church. Join the church groups. I mean, whatever you want. Get in front of more people. First of all, it's going to make you a happier person, and happier people also are luckier people. So this is just my little, once a year I like to talk about luck. Guys, you can make your own luck, and it's all up to you. You want to be an unlucky person, you're going to be an unlucky person. You want to be a lucky person, you can be a lucky person. It's all up to you. Make sense? Super. Say, this is a chart of the day from a service I belong to. What would you say, guys, since 2000, what do you think the average rate of return was for the market since, or not, I'm sorry, not the average. What do you think total market return was since 2000? What's total market return since 2000 for Dow Jones? The Dow Jones Industrials. Very good, Jerry. You either knew it or you could read it because it's right here. A decade and a half later, 15 years later, inflation-adjusted Dow is up a mere 25%. Here's the danger of it. Now, I've talked about a lot of money managers, a lot of advisors who are money managers, and guess what? This is a great indication of how the human mind is a very dangerous thing. if we don't understand our biases, we're going to get into all sorts of trouble. Because when you talk to these, especially the younger money managers, and to be honest with you, even the guys who've been doing it for 30 years, guess what they concentrate on? The inflation-adjusted Dow is up of 156% if you'd bought after the financial crisis. So what are they remembering? The last 15 years or the last 7 years? Last 8 years? Because you look at it, why the hell would I have any money on the sidelines when it's made 156%? Are you crazy? Why would I have any money on the sides? Why would I put any money into an FIA? I should put it all into money management. Because, geez, guys, I've done this. I've been in money management, and I've sat in my bed at night, and instead of counting sheep, I'm counting money. Because I look at the ceiling and I think, okay, right now I have $50 million under management, and if it goes up 10%, boom. So right now I'm making, at 1%, I'm making what? $500,000. And it just, if I don't even bring up any clients next year, it goes up another 10%. Next year, I'd be making $550,000, and then it goes up. Geez, next year I'd be making over $600,000. The next year, holy crap! By 10 years from now, I'll be making $1 million a year. Guys, that's what. Yeah, BS, Wade. I've done it, and I know we've done it, and so, guys, if your accounts. If your clients' accounts are only up 25% for the last 15 years, are they keeping ahead of inflation? Because when we tell them, hey, if you stick in there for the long term, we'll stay ahead of inflation. Have they stayed ahead of inflation over? Hey, I don't know what you consider long term. I guess I would consider most clients. Jeff, would you consider 15 years long term?
Yeah, I would consider 15 years long term.
And did they keep ahead of inflation?
No, I mean, that's 1.5%.
And you talk to guys, money managers, do they forget this, that the market in the last 15 years is only up 25%? Do they think that, oh my gosh, the market's going to be, we're going to continue to see this kind of return that we've seen over the last 7-8 years?
No, everybody's focused on the last thing they remember, which is, it's up 150, 200% over the last 8 years.
Guys, please, please, please. We need to be in growth. We want it to grow. We want our clients to experience. Look at from 1980 to 2000. We want them to experience that. How many places in the chart look like that, though, guys? We got in the last 100 years, we got one here, we got one here, and we got one here. So in the last 100 years, we've had 3 charts that look like that. Guess what? Chance of that happening in our lifetime again is not very high. And remember, who are we dealing with? 20-year-olds or 60-year-olds? What's the difference between a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old? Does a 60-year-old, how old is a 60-year-old 15 years from now? Let's do our high math here. I want everybody to answer this. How old is a 60-year-old 15 years from now? I said 60 years old. So I'm getting some 21s. 60-year-olds. We don't work with 16-year-olds. We work with 60-year-olds. So I'm getting a lot of 75s. Yes, 75. So do they have time to make back? No. I mean, if I told a 60-year-old, put all your vacations on hold, start eating at the cheaper restaurants, drive that car until the market comes back, and it comes back 15 years from now, guess what, dudes? That's a problem. So again, hey, we all do it. I'm sitting there counting I'm going to be worth about $50 million based on the last, in the next 10 years, I'll be worth about $50 million, based on the last 7-8 years. Bullshit. Because what I have right now could very well be down 50% tomorrow. Don't fall into that trap. We all, not you, me, everybody, we have to remember that the market, we keep saying the market will keep you ahead of inflation. Not necessarily. In fact, I've shown this before. In the last 50 years, there's been, the market has kept you ahead of inflation less than 50% of the time. Do you all remember, the guys that have been on for a while, do you all remember that, or should I go over that next week? The market only keeps you ahead of inflation about 50% of the time based on the last 50 years of the market. So if I went to a client and said, hey, we need to be in the market to keep us ahead of inflation, we need to expose ourselves to all the risk in the market, for a 50-50 chance of staying ahead of inflation, what do you think most people are going to say? Yeah, thumbs up, get me in there. So this is an example of why we need to pay attention of our biases, and especially that the near-term bias. And then, we just talked about that with luck. The near-term bias with if we've had a bad 5 minutes is we think what? If we feel we've had a bad 5 minutes, we think what? Oh, we've had a whole bad week. No, we've had a bad 5 minutes. Hey, the market's gone up for the last 8 years, so the market can only go up. No. So be aware of your biases, okay? I found a great drill that you guys can use to get your skills at open-ended questions a lot better. So take your 21-point checklist crib sheets, okay? And then here's how you practice those: what, why, who, how, when, where, which questions. See, you'll take one of in fact, you'll do it with the whole 21-point checklist. But how you'll do it is this: you're not going to do the scripts. The scripts take hours to learn. This is more of a skill to get you better at at asking open-ended questions. Do you remember back in grade school when the teacher would line you up in 2 lines, and then you'd go to the front of the room and she'd have flashcards to see how fast you could do your multiplication or addition, or and you would have a competition so you could do it faster? Do you guys remember that, those flashcards that you would figure out how quickly can you do your multiplications or your additions or your subtractions? So this is a way to do this. This is not about getting better at the skills. It's about getting better at open-ended questions. We're just using the crib notes as an excuse to work on that. So we want to use these crib notes as flashcards. So I'm using the quality of life directive here, but you'd actually start with the survivor's guide and move your way through the whole entire thing. And what I do is I try to come up with an open-ended question to get them to get a person to say, I don't have that. Okay, so I say, where's the second part of your medical power of attorney? The most important part. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. See, all I'm going to do is practice one question. I don't want to have multiple questions. I just want to ask one question to get them to say this, and one question to get them to say that, and one question to get them to say that. It's not about the script. I want you to be great at the script, but that takes hours. What I want you to do here is just come up with a who, what, where, why, when, how question for this, a who, what, where, why question for this, a who, what, where, why, how question for that, a who, what, where, why question for this. See, I'm drilling you to get your brain to work at coming up with open-ended questions very, very rapidly. Now I would go through all these, and I would go to the next one. I'd go to the next one. So if you did that, how long do you think? If you went through the entire, not with all the scripts, just looking for an open-ended question, open-ended question, open-ended question, open-ended question, and start at the beginning and went through all 21 scripts, how long do you think that would take you? I'd say about an hour and a half the first time, and then go through it again. It'd take you about an hour the second time, and then about 45 minutes the next time, and then about a half hour the next time. Because guess what we're drilling here? The scripts, you need to be great at the scripts. But this is a way to get great at asking open-ended questions, rewiring your brain that when you see something, if you want somebody to say something, you can easily come up with an open-ended question to make them say it quickly. So Jeff, can you help me out here? Because I've explained this to people before, and they still don't get it. So I must be speaking Greek. So I'd like you to explain it, too, to see if we can have a different way of telling people what we're trying to do here.
Well, I'm not sure mine will be any different. I mean, all you do is you take and ask one open-ended question to see if you can get them to say the thing in the red. At first, it's going to take a lot of thought, and it's not going to come easy. But I think what Mike is saying is if you start at Survivor's Guide and start working your way down, by the time you get to the 3rd or 4th one, you're going to find that it's a lot easier, that it comes a lot more natural. And that's all we're trying to get you to do, is just to get that feeling of being able to ask those questions so that it just feels comfortable and natural, and it doesn't feel like it's the very first time you've ever tried to do it when you're sitting in front of a client.
And I'd like it to that the questions come out more naturally as open-ended questions, because it's more difficult for you to ask a closed-ended question than it does for an open-ended question. So we've got so many guys that have learned the scripts. I'd say at least 2/3 of the guys now have learned the scripts. And when I'm listening to their tapes now, they're doing the scripts, but unfortunately, they're kind of doing the scripts. They're doing every single bullet, but they're using way too many closed-ended questions, closed-ended question, closed-ended question. We want you to be asking open-ended questions, because following the script with closed-ended questions, hey, it kind of works. We don't want it to kind of work. We want to close every single person. If you do open-ended questions and follow them as we lay them out in the tutorials, 100% of people will move to you. Now, why will 100% of people move to you? Why will 100% of people move to you? Not because we've proven it, not because of we've got 50,000 archive tapes and 60,000 times it's worked. Why would we sell 100% of people to get? Why would we get them 100% of people to move all their money to you? When you do this right, why? What are they going to spend? What are these people going to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours telling you? Yeah, they are going to tell me over and over and over why they do not trust their advisor, why their advisor has been taking advantage of them. If they tell me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 200-300 times, because I'm going to ask them 200 or 300 open-ended questions. I ask them 700, but if you ask 200 or 300, that's great. I ask about 700, but if they tell me, not with yep, because what's a yeah? Do you see what I'm saying here? Yep. Do you see what this makes sense? Yep. Do you see why he's doing this? Yep. What are those worth? What are those closed-ended questions worth? Nothing. But if instead they say, if I say, now why did this happen? Well, he just wants to make money off of me. He doesn't care about me. Well, why did this? Why? Which would you rather have, the 100,000 or 50,000? I'd rather have the 100,000. I mean, what's the point of return if you can't get access to your money? Well, why is the power of return? See, if I ask open-ended questions, if they tell me hundreds of times why they have to leave their guy, guess what they do at the end? They leave their guy. So that's the importance of learning this stuff and asking open-ended questions instead of closed-ended questions. And then do it with all the scripts that we have, all the, not the scripts, sorry, the scripts. You need to learn the scripts, but this is not about scripts, it's about asking open-ended questions. And go through the entire checklist, all of those crib notes, which is one question for each one of those, okay? And again, we need to learn the scripts, but we're not talking about scripts here. We're talking about getting great at the who, what, where, why, when, how question, so that it just comes off, it rolls off your tongue. You can come up with an open-ended question instantaneously. Is there any questions? Anybody still not clear on how to do this? This would be something I would do weekly, daily, or whatever until you can do this in about 15, 20 minutes. Okay? Now we're going to listen to a recording here and see what we can. This advisor does a lot of things very, very well, but we're going to look at some of the things that she could have done better. So let me get this up here. Oops. Okay.
Did our will in Michigan.
Okay, so she's going to be doing the power of attorney here.
We put Jody down, right, as power of attorney, yeah.
That's great. It's great that you have that, and I applaud you guys for having that. So what is...
So she gave a little guts there, right? Applaud you guys for having that power of attorney, so that was good.
What does it allow us to do?
Yeah, I know. She takes all of our bills, right? She's responsible to pay all the bills. Yeah.
So if an example...
Well, she gets the, like a 401 or whatever. I mean, she gets our financial, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a great thing to talk about. We can go over all of these things. It's really good to help, make sure we have everything in order.
Okay, is the client give a correct answer? It's about the financial. Did the advisor, she didn't do anything wrong, but did she miss an opportunity to give her a little pat on the back? Yes, so she didn't do anything wrong, but she missed a little opportunity there.
So, as an example, like power of attorney, if my husband was walked outside and got hit by a bus, so 3 things could happen. He could stand up and, brush himself off, and thank his
Go
lucky
on.
stars,
Yeah, yeah.
go on. And does he need any like legal or financial documents, if that's the case? If he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't need anything. Second possibility is he could get sent up the pearly gates.
Yeah.
And so then what does he need? If he got sent up to the pearly gates, what kind of document does he need to help me sort his financial affairs out?
Attorney?
Yeah, power of attorney, exactly. Well, in that case, he would need a will.
Okay. So the guy said what? Power of attorney. And then she did what? I'll play it back here. She corrected. Did you hear that, guys? Anybody not hear that? Did anybody want to hear that again, or do y'all get that she corrected him? Everybody hear that? Okay, good. So that happens occasionally, so let's talk about that. When somebody says the power of attorney when you're run over by the bus and go to the pearly gates, first of all, let's talk about how to avoid it. How do we want to avoid that? Well, here's how you avoid it from happening at the next meeting. So when I say, so Jeff, can you role play with me?
Sure.
So I'm going to say, so let's say that I'm leaving work today and I step off the curb and a bus zips by me, misses me, and I'm like, oh man, I count my lucky stars. I mean, there was no harm, no foul. Do I need any documents then?
No, not if nothing happened.
No. But if I stepped out, boom, laid flat, go up to the pearly gates. Now, what legal document? We just talked about it here a minute ago. What legal document would I need for my family, my executors, my trustees to take all of my assets and get them divided correctly? What legal document would my executors, my trustees need to divide my assets all properly?
Oh, will or a trust.
So, guys, what two words did I use in there that cued Jeff what the answer was? See if anybody got that. I used it twice. I used the words twice. Trustees and executor, trustees and executor. That's cueing Jeff because we just talked about that here a minute ago, because remember, before the power of attorney, we talked about the will and the trust. So I'm cueing his brain to say, hey, the right answer is what? The will or the trust if I die. Does that make sense, everybody? So right now I'm not talking about how to correct this. We'll talk about that in a second. So when somebody gives me a wrong answer, we'll talk in a second how we correct it. But right now I'm talking about how to make sure it does not happen the next meeting or any future meetings. So does anybody not get what I'm saying there? So what we want to do is at all my next meetings is make sure when I'm talking about the will to avoid them saying the power of attorney, because remember, they have power of attorney in the brain because we just talked about the power of attorney. That's, hey, what's so great about power of attorney? So instead, I know that's on their brain. I've got to remind them, well, before we talked about the power of attorney, we talked about the will and the trust. So that's where I cue in. So Jeff, if I step off the curb and bam, I'm dead. I'm up at the pearly gates. I'm no longer of this world. What legal document, we talked about it here just a couple of minutes ago, would my trustees or my executor need to make sure that all my assets were divided the way that I wanted them to, that is stated in this document? Again, the executors and the trustees would make sure to get all my assets divided properly. What documents or documents would that be?
Oh, like a will or a trust.
So do you guys get that? That's how to avoid that going ahead. And I'd much rather avoid the problem than have to fix it afterwards. So any questions on that, guys? Okay. So now let's talk about this. So Jeff does say the wrong thing because I took the easy way out and I didn't do that. So here's what we're going to do. The formula is this. First thing I'm going to do is tell him why his answer is right. I'm going to tell him why his answer is right, and then I'm going to circle around and then have him come up with the real correct answer. So why am I first going to tell him, when he said power of attorney, when he says that my family needs the power of attorney when I'm dead, do people like to be corrected? No. They don't like to be told they're wrong. And what will happen is if you do that too often, they'll quit talking, they'll get irritated with you, etc. And if they answer a question wrong, whose fault is it? Yeah, it's mine. So I better take the blame for that. So there's one way to do it. You can fall on the sword, or a better way to do it is tell them why they're right, and then ask questions so they can get the real right answer. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm going to tell him maybe 2-3 reasons. I want to talk for maybe 30 seconds to a minute about why his answer was correct. Even though it was wrong, I'm going to tell him why his answer was correct, and then I'll ask some questions so he can come up with the real answer. And the reason we do that is so we can still have him understand what the right answer is, but he never has to feel like he was what? He never has, yeah, exactly. He never has to feel like he's wrong. So Jeff, if I step off the curb, nothing happens to me, the bus goes by, I'm like, whoo, that was a close one. Do I need any legal documents or anything like that for that?
No, not if you're okay.
No, I wouldn't. But if I step off the curb, bam, boom, go up to the pearly gates and no longer of this world, then what document would I need?
Well, then you need your power of attorney.
Yeah, a power of attorney, because, you know, it's a legal document. I went to the attorney, said, hey, if something happens to me, I need the people around me, these people I trust, to take care of my affairs, to be able to handle all my assets, to be able to make decisions for my family. So when, you know, when something happens to me, we need to have that legal documents, or nobody will know what to do. Nobody will know who to trust. Nobody will allow people to touch my assets, my money, or sign my signature unless they have a legal document like that. So you're absolutely right. And when I went to the attorney, Jeff, did I just get one or two did I just get a will or trust, or were there other documents we had to do as well, like the power of attorney?
No, you got all of that at once, or at least I did.
Got all of that at once. Yeah. So if he had me do all these documents and they all did the same thing, and he was charging me a whole bunch of money to do this, you know, for different documents, you know, a will, a trust, a power of attorney, a medical opportunity, if they all did the same thing and he's charging me for those, would I be happy or not very happy?
No, you wouldn't be happy if they all do the same thing.
I'd say, why don't we just do one thing and charge me for that? So instead, do you think every document does the same thing, or every document has a slightly different job?
No, I'm sure they all have different jobs.
Yeah, they all have different jobs. And remember, we said that what the will and the trust, you know, our trustee and executors, when do they use that? When I'm walking around alive, or when I'm dead?
No, when you're dead.
Yeah, when I'm dead. So we know that's what the will and trust does. Now we still have the power, the legal or the financial power of attorney, and that would be again a document that we appoint people for when I can't take care of my affairs. But do you think that's when I'm alive or when I'm incapacitated? I'm sorry, when I'm dead or incapacitated?
I'm sure it's when you're incapacitated.
Yeah, because the will and the trust is for what?
That's for when you're dead.
And the power of attorney is for when I'm alive, but what?
But you can't make decisions. You're in a coma, or you're in an accident, you're hurt, or something like that.
That's exactly right. So did I ever correct Jeff there? Did I ever correct Jeff? Well, I corrected him, but did he know I corrected him? Did he ever feel like I told him he was wrong? So do you see, the first thing I told him is why his answer was right. So can we think about that, guys? When he said power of attorney, do you see how we get mixed up with that? Where do we get a power of attorney? Do we get it at the same place we get a will, or do we not get it at the same place we get a will? Same place. That's one reason that they would be similar, or why he might have made a mistake. Another reason he might have made that mistake is what? Well, they both appoint, you know, they're both legal documents. First of all, are they both legal documents? Is that the same thing? Yeah, they're both legal documents. The third thing is that, hey, you know what? On that legal document, I'm actually choosing somebody to take care of my affairs. So do you see why somebody could make those mistakes? So I'm just saying, yeah, you're right. It's a legal document. Yeah, we got it from the attorney. Yeah, it's someplace where we appoint people to take care of our affairs. So I said, you're right. And then I just ask questions so he can learn that what? The correct answer. And that way he still knows the correct answer, but he never has to feel like he's what? Like he's wrong. So any questions on that, or do you want me to do it one more time? Good. Everybody's got it. Okay, so we'll continue on with the tape here.
But if he was just incapacitated and in the hospital, and so he's hooked up to machines and they're beeping and blurping, then he needs the power.
Somebody of the family to be a power.
Exactly. Then he needs somebody in the family to be a power of attorney.
So she told him, and luckily he then got on board with it. But do you see how, was she telling, preaching, teaching, or asking open-ended questions? Yeah, she was telling, preaching, teaching. Now the nice thing is, her pacing, would you say she sounds like a slick talking, fast talking salesperson, or has she got a nice conversational pacing here? Yeah, she's got a nice conversational pacing. So even though she told him, the guy felt, she did it at a nice slow pace that the guy jumped in and was willing to go ahead and say, oh yes, it's the power of attorney. So it did work out well for her, but because she did things right or because she lucked out? Because she lucked out. So here we go.
If they call me to the hospital, and where's my stress level going to be on the chart?
Yeah, right.
It's going to be exactly like way off the charts. But maybe after like a day or a week or even a couple weeks if he's in the hospital, like does my life stop just because he's in the hospital? No, he doesn't stop. I mean, we have kids, so the kid's going to take care of themselves. Or the bill's going to pay themselves. So if he's in the hospital.
Okay, so she's asking lots of great questions. What's the problem? She's asking great questions. What's the problem there? There's no answers. Yes, there's no answers. And you're right. There's a lot of closed-ended questions. And even with the closed-ended questions, is she even waiting for a yes or a no? So when we do this, again, the only way you know a client's following, because a yes or no could mean I don't know what you're talking about. A yes or no could mean I disagree with you. A yes or no could mean I'm not really listening to you, but I'll just shake my head one way or the other just to keep the conversation going. Or a yes or no could actually mean they agree with you. But if they say a yes or no and they agree with you, does it still mean that they actually could regurgitate that, or it's a passive yes or no? It's just a passive yes or no. So yes or no's, hey, one is okay, but should we ever do two in a row? Never do more than two or more than one closed-ended questions before you ask another open-ended question.
Well, yeah. So if all of these things are piling up, then how much money do we keep in our checking account traditionally? They don't pay so much interest in our checking account. So, if I need to get some money to pay these things.
So did the client ever say how much money we keep in the checking account? So this advisor she's doing the script. The only problem is what? She's doing the script. That does not work. So do you get why this is an example of why I want you to, that drill. What was that drill we just went over with about 10 minutes ago? What was that all about? Learning how to what? Using the crib notes to do what? As an excuse to learn to ask good asking open-ended questions. That's why, this gal has the script down. The problem is she's doing all the closed-ended questions and not letting them answer. So that's what that drill is about, is getting better, not just at the script, but doing the script right.
Our money is in with his former employer, so like a 401k. So if I need to get into his money, is that money or is that account in both of our names, or is that just in his name?
Yeah, his name.
It's just in his name. So have you ever tried to call like a cable company?
Did you hear the woman say, yep, yeah. See, she's plowing forward without getting them to commit to what's happening here. And why is she doing that? And you guys do this all the time, and Jeff, jump in here and either agree or disagree with me. You assume because they're nodding their head, and I've talked to guys, they're nodding their head that no, Mike, I can read body language. I knew they were following me. I knew they were agreeing with me. I can read, I'm not an idiot here. I can read body language. Guys, I've been at the mechanic. I've been at at some place where I didn't really know what was going on, and as they're explaining things, guess what I do? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I get it. Do I understand what the hell the mechanic's saying there? No. But we've all become experts at what? Not looking like idiots. So don't tell me that they're following. But we learned that even if they are following, that's worth what? Even if they are agreeing and they are following, what's that worth? Nothing. Because they're not connecting the dots. So here we go.
Yeah, and one other thing I would add is you're going to get to the end, because we all know how this ends, and I'm going to say something like, so I don't know for sure why this might have happened, but there are a couple of reasons. Why do you think this might have happened? And when you get to the end, a lot of times what you hear, not always, but a lot of times you hear, yeah. And you're like, I couldn't get him to answer. I'm like, yeah, it's because you didn't require him to answer the last 10 minutes. Why would you require him to answer now? And then if you just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not moving forward until you answer, what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, why is he drawing a line in the sand here? Oh, wait a minute. I'll bet I know why he's drawing a line in the sand here. If you don't do it at the beginning, if all you get in the beginning is yeah, that's all you're going to get at the end.
Yeah, I mean, if your teacher did in school only did true, false, 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 essay, it's going to be, people are freaking out because, true and false is easy. I got a 50-50 chance here. But the essay, holy, now all of a sudden he springs that on me? How am I supposed to answer that? And so if all you do is yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and Jeff didn't actually, Jeff is letting you guys fill in the blank there. So when he said, the client goes, aha, you were fine with me, yep. Now you're asking me to actually give you a full thought answer, a complete thought answer. When Jeff said, aha, I know what you're trying to do, what is it the client thinks you're trying to do if you wait till the end and then ask that open-ended question and make them try to say it? What are you trying to get them to say at the end? What are you trying to get them to say at the end? That the guy is bad. So if all you get is, yep. Okay, now why did he do this? Oh, I see what you're trying. You want me to say the guy's bad. Screw you, man. I'm not going to say that. But see, if they ask the open-ended questions, they're the one that's building the case. They're the one that's building the case block by block by block. So by the time they get to the end, it's not, aha, I know what you're trying to do. It's like, aha, I know what my guy was trying to do. You get that? If I'm saying, if all Jeff is saying is yep, and at the end I say, now what are you trying to do? He's like, why are you asking this question now? What's your point here? Oh, I get it. You're trying to say this guy's bad. Instead, if I have Jeff say, no, why, if this happens, what happens? Well, this happens. If when this happens, is it A, B, or C? Well, no, it's C. And what happens here? Well, it's blah, blah, blah. And what happens here? Blah, blah, blah. And then by the time I get to the end, see, he's building his own case block by block. By the end, when I say, so why do you think this happens? Well, because of blah, 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 blah. He already, see, he's already said all the answers out loud. All he's doing now is connecting them into one cohesive thought. All he's doing at the end, if you're asking open-ended questions, is connecting all those open-ended questions into one cohesive thought. Aha, I know what's going on. My guy's trying to take advantage of me. You get that? Let's see here.
Yeah, because our main ground is not, he's like so frustrated. He's like, I can't open my phone.
So how much fun is that? So if I were to call up the 401k company and say, I need some money out of that 401k, what do you think they're going to say to me?
Yeah.
Good luck, go take a hike. So, that's when we need.
So that was a good opening question. They said good luck and whatever. So they're following along. That's a good opening question.
The power of attorney. So, he's still in the hospital. Are all my problems solved? No, not exactly. But the problem of getting at the money is that solves that problem.
Yeah.
So
there, she went back to what? Selling. So, that's why you got power of attorney is going to solve all our problems. Do we know that they get that? Do we know the client is following along? Yeah, she answered her own question, exactly.
I am a financial advisor. So if you were, my job is to grow the money. But if
remember, by that point in the crib notes, what do they have to say? They have to say what the job of the power of attorney is. Did they ever come right out and say what the job of the power of attorney is? So before we go on to the 100 versus 50, they need to say the job of the power of attorney is to make sure they can get access to the money when they need it most. See, they never said that. Now she's going to go on to the next part, and we don't have, so she's built the first layer of her building. So we're building this house of cards. How well built is this first layer of cards? I mean, it's standing up, but how well built is it? Do I want to be building another layer? Is it built well enough that I want to start putting another layer of cards on top of it? It's shaky, exactly. It's up, but it's shaky.
You brought me $10,000, and look, over the course of 5 years, I grew it to $100,000. Would you be happy? So, and then same sort of scenario, if you brought me the same $10,000, and over the course of the same 5 years, taking the same amount of risk, I grew it to $50,000. Would you be happy? There.
Sure.
Okay, so, but given the two options, which one would you rather have?
The 100.
So I'd rather have none. We can all do math, and 100 is bigger than 50. So, but I'm going to throw a little catch in there. So they say, this hypothetical, that if you can only have the 100,000 if you don't need it. You know, if everything is going great and things are sunny and rosy, you can have the 100,000. But if you ever really need the money,
Well,
if
give
you're
it
in a
the 100,000, but
jam,
don't spend it.
yeah, if you're in a jam, you can't have the 100,000. But the 50,000, you can have whenever you want. You can have a rain or shine or anytime. You know, if you're in a jam, you can have that. So which one?
So the only thing I would say here, she's doing a pretty good job in this, but I ask about 3 times as many questions as she's asking here. And the danger of that is that have clients ever had this conversation before about choosing an investment for access over return? Have they ever had a conversation like that before? No. So this can be very confusing to them. You know where you're going, they don't. So if I know where I'm going, they don't. Should I give more directions? Should I give more hints or less hints? Bigger questions or smaller questions? So she's not doing a bad job, but she's rolling about 3 of my questions into just one question. And we'll see. Sometimes that works out, but we'll see how well it works out here.
Given the catch, would you rather have?
The 50,000 if you need it. You
Yeah.
know?
So is that, and why?
Boom. So it worked for her this time. These are sharp cookies, so no problemo. They got it.
Because you need it. Because there's no use. You know, the 50,000 is more valuable.
So then she did what? So they said I'd rather have the 50, but then the advisor went in and did what? Explained to them why that was a great answer. No. What we have to say is, well, I'm a little confused now, though, because before you said 100, now you said 50. Why the change? And why the change of heart? Why do they need to say that? It needs to become crystal clear in their mind that, hey, return is good. I'm sorry, rate of return is good, but access to my money is more important. The only way that's going to become crystal clear in their mind is if they say it out loud, if they work it through in their brain. And the only way we know they're working it through in their brain is if we make them say it. But instead, the lady gave us the right answer, so then the advisor saying, yeah, here, let me explain why that's the right answer. Blah, 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 blah. What's happening to the people then? Are they still actively listening or are they passively engaged? Passively.
You can get it when you need it. So if I were, like I said, my job is to help grow the money. But if somebody came to me and they said, Gianna, I'm in a jam and my...
So again, do you see how is she doing the script? Absolutely. But who's doing the script here? She's hitting every crib note. But she's doing it. Who needs to be doing it? They do, exactly. They need to be doing the script. She's asking and answering, right?
Social Security, you know, I don't have my power of attorney is not working with Social Security. My power of attorney is not working with the IRS. And these are things that frequently happen. My power of attorney is not working with the bank or with the brokerage. And I said to them, I can't help you. How happy would they be with me? Not very. So would I be, and the bottom line is, would I be a good advisor or a lousy advisor if I didn't make sure?
Be typical.
Be typical. Wow. Amen. Be typical. But
now, here she did something really well. The guy said you'd be a typical advisor, and he was a little joke that advisors are all bad, and what'd she do? She got on their side and laughed with them. See, that's awesome. So you can tell this advisor has good or bad people skills. She has very, very good people skills. Guess how she's been getting along in her whole life? People skills. Now the problem is, because she conducts the whole meeting this way, where she has good people skills and the people never get mad at her, but she's actually telling them the whole script, do you think she wrings all the advantages out of the scripts, or she's getting probably 10% or 20% of the advantage out of the script? She's only getting some of it, exactly. So, and don't get me wrong, she's seeing success, but she's missing huge amounts of success. And she would scratch her head and say, I don't know, I'm doing this. I'm Mike, I am doing this exactly as it's laid out. Is she? Well, and yeah, I agree, Dave, sort of. The fact is she's hitting every single crib note. She's hitting every single crib note, but when she does all the talking, she does all the telling, selling, preaching, teaching, all of her closed-ended questions, or all of her questions are closed-ended, and then she answers most of them. Guess what? Are the people working through why they need to leave their guy all the way through the meeting? Are they working through it all the way through the meeting, or are they saying, oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see your point here. Oh, I see why you're saying we should leave. Oh, I see why you're saying we shouldn't trust the guy. Oh, I see why you're saying. See, the problem with them saying, I see why you're saying it, is that means they see why I'm saying it, and why would I tell them that? Why would I tell them any of these things? Why would I tell them they shouldn't trust their advisor? Why would I tell them that their advisor is taking advantage of them? Yeah, to get their money. I'm going to tell them that to get their money. So if I'm saying it, it's worth diddly-do. The only people who can say it is them.
Would I be a good advisor or a lousy advisor if I didn't make sure that people could get their money when they needed it most? Yeah. So as from on the financial, like on the advising standpoint, I don't take on anybody as a client until I've gone through their power of attorney with a fine-tooth comb and made sure it's going to work with everything, with the banks and brokerages, with the 401ks, with the IRAs, with the Social Security, because there's a lot of. Do you think all of the government agencies all work together and say, you know?
I have a question. The power of attorney, like I said, Jody, like we put her down as our power of attorney when we made out our will, right?
Yep.
But now if something happened to us, you know, and she had to, you know, go and, you know, start paying bills and stuff like that, how does she prove that she's the power of attorney? I mean, it's just there be a card or something that.
So this gives us a good indication. Do they have any clue what a power of attorney is right now? What that document is for? So do you see when I said that first layer of card she built? Guess what? It's now rearing its ugly head. They understand the concept of the power of attorney. What they don't understand is that piece of paper is what gives that person the power of attorney. They have no clue that that's the point. So all this stuff these layers that she's been building on top of that is now it's all starting to fold in on itself. They don't even know that that document is what gives that person the right to do it. Okay.
Makes her as our power. I mean, how does she go and prove to people that she is our power of attorney?
Well, that's an excellent question, and that's why it's good to take a look at it.
So, but she handles it well. She rolls with the flow, tells them it's a good question. So that she has great people skills.
That it is going to work, with your bank and brokerage.
So you let them know. So you kind of be proactive about it, and you're saying you would contact those identities and say, hey, she's our power of attorney. Yeah.
Yeah, just saying it.
So she still doesn't get the piece of paper, what that piece of paper is for, right? She's thinking, oh, I call the bank and I tell them, hey, this is my person, my power of attorney. So she's still not. Do you see now that the advisor? Here's the real problem with that. The advisor has to go back and educate them on what a power of attorney is for, what the document is for. Guess what that has done? With the whole purpose of the power of attorney script which is to get them to say, hey, any advisor doesn't look at a power of attorney is a horrible advisor. What's happening to that whole conversation now that she has to go back and educate them on what a power of attorney is for? It's forgotten, Jonathan. It's watered down, Wade. So guess what? The whole purpose of the power of attorney script is to get them to say, connect it out and say, wait a minute, if you're a horrible advisor, and in their head they think, wait a minute, my guy didn't do this, he must be horrible too. The whole purpose of that is now being watered down, being forgotten, because she has to go back and have them understand what the document is actually for. So do you see why when you don't do a good job at the beginning of a script, guess what's going to happen to the end of the script, the purpose of the script? It gets watered down.
And
I have paper proof of that.
yeah, the actual, I mean, you do have an actual, or we find out that we don't,
Document.
we get one, a document.
Oh, Arthur, thanks for bringing that up. When we don't toot our own horn. So I'm sure that's not what you meant, Arthur, by tooting our own horn. What we're doing here is not tooting our horn. We're apologizing for the fact that why we're covering the power of attorney. You know, you're probably wondering, I don't get paid to do this. Why would I, you know, am I an attorney? Do I get paid for doing the power of attorney? So why am I wasting your time? Why am I wasting my time? You know, I apologize if you're kind of getting irritated with that. I'm going to apologize for doing this, not trying to say, now, I'm the only, you know, if your advisor hasn't done this, she's a crappy advisor. I'm a great advisor. But no. So I know that's what you mean, Arthur, but some other people are probably thinking that. I don't try to say that I'm a great advisor for covering the power of attorney. Instead, I'm actually apologizing for covering the power of attorney. See, whenever you brag, you have to do it in the form of an apology. So here we go.
Her name on it, and then make sure it works with all of the different entities.
There was something else I wanted to ask.
Okay.
If we make out a new will, how does that boy deal with the other? Because we have.
So see, now he's talking about the will. Do we have any clue that they get? Did the power of attorney script work at all with these folks? And Jeff, if this advisor, if she was to give herself a grade before she did this tape review, Jeff, what grade would she have given herself before we did this tape review?
Yeah, I mean, she would have said she did a good job. And I think that's the thing that's the most frustrating for the people that I talk to, is they really are making an effort to do the scripts, but when you do it and you don't get their feedback more than yep, what they go home thinking is, you know what, wow, she made a really good case. This is some good stuff. Let me think about it, because if it still makes sense to me what you said in the morning, then it might be something we do. But they go home saying, the advisor thinks, well, I did it right, and they're still saying they need to think about it. That's because they need to go home and think about what you said.
Yes. They agreed with you there. They said, yep. Well, they were agreeing with what you said. They weren't agreeing with what they said. So that's that whole part about that drill, going back and becoming really good at those open-ended questions. So again, these scripts and this tape review like this, spending a half hour, 45 minutes on it, good, bad, indifferent, you like doing it once a month? Good. Super. Well, then you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.